My name is Harold Gordon. I'm a program official at the National Institute on Drug Abuse. I was recruited here over 25 years ago to develop a program in the neurobiological basis of drug abuse. Before I came here, I trained with Nobel laureate Roger Sperry and specifically worked on cognitive function related to the left and right sides of the brain. Soon after I arrived, there was development of the magnetic resonance imaging in which we can actually study the functioning in the two sides of the brain. And in particular, we can study risk factors that are associated with drug abuse. These risk factors that were studied included impulsivity and it included craving. Impulsivity is usually studied with a test called response inhibition, how well you can stop yourself from making a response. And when you do these tests, you find out that there's a greater number of activation in the right side of the brain. This is for people who are not drug abusers or anything. These are just for regular everyday people. However, drug abusers actually have less of an activation in that. The other risk factor for drug abuse specifically, of course, is craving, how much you want a particular substance. And this is measured by giving a picture of a whiskey bottle, for example, for alcoholics, or a cigarette for smokers. And when they see these pictures, there's greater activation in the left side of the brain. So what is the important part for me to have written this article? Turns out that these data are reported significantly all throughout the literature, but the authors make nothing of it. They don't have anything to, they don't say why it's important, they don't relate it to cognitive function or anything like that. And I felt that this was my job, is to put all this together, give it some context to develop new research paradigms. So I combined them all for impulsivity, that is response inhibition, the go, no-go and stop signal. And for all the papers assessing craving, that is for drugs added together, alcohol, cocaine, nicotine, and so on. I compared the left-right activation for several different sections of the brain. In the diagram, arrows pointing to the right show lateralization for each of these sections of the right hemisphere. Arrows to the left show lateralization to the left hemisphere. Here are two specific examples of craving. For alcohol, there is a clear lateralization to most areas of the left hemisphere. But for nicotine, this is not true across all research reports. The reason is brain activation was different for subjects who were deprived from smoking for a day compared to those who could smoke. That is, those who were satiated, just before the MRI test. Those who were deprived showed left hemisphere lateralization, just like alcohol and other drugs. Those that were satiated showed right hemisphere lateralization. This demonstrates quite clearly that craving is an important element for lateralization to the left hemisphere. And this was true for the most part for other substances, cocaine, heroin, marijuana. And it was even true for food, although not so much for computer gaming. So there must be a reason why these activation for craving and for response inhibition is lateralized to the right and left hemisphere. There must be something in the brain that does that. Authors only report the data, they never point out the reasons. So with my background, I felt it was important to review all of this information, both the cognitive differences between the left and right hemispheres, and also some of the differences in neurotransmitter activation and connectivity. And I wanted to put it all into one article together with what's reported on the brain activation so that readers and future researchers can put it all together and design new research together. So for example, one of the cognitive differences between the left and right hemisphere is approach, which is associated with the left hemisphere, and avoidance, which is associated with the right hemisphere, which fits very nicely with what's in this article about how inhibition is associated with the right hemisphere and craving is associated with the left approach and avoidance. So now the hope is that new research will be developed to use all of this information at one time, developing new theories, new research, and of course the ultimate goal is to be able to design new ways of prevention and treatment for drug abuse.